it's Annie. I've been working with a really special colleague here at Thrasher Art Company, and she helps me see. She helps me unpack. She helps me she challenges me for sure. She's younger, she's in college, she's studying marketing, so it's really helping me grow as a business owner and as a brand. But as we talk about the ideas of what I should discuss, what I should be talking about, who my audience is, there are often times that she'll bring something up and ask me my thoughts on it, and we're trying to capture those conversations. Interestingly enough, she just asked me if I would ever feel comfortable talking about purity. And I'm pretty sure my nostrils immediately flared because this idea of purity pisses me off. Hang tight, stick with me. This idea of purity is probably what changed the trajectory of my life after I was raped out of my virginity. And I chose to stay with the man who had raped me out of my virginity in the name of purity. Let me unpack that. This idea of teaching young women that they have this precious gift, which is so true, but that the second that it's given away, that they are somehow less than. They're less valuable, they're less attractive, they have less to offer the world because this one magic moment is gone. That is vile. That is packed full of future shame, condemnation. A woman has enough battles to deal with in her own life. The last thing she should have to battle with is whether or not she'll ever be good enough once her virginity is gone. Because there are plenty of women on this planet who do not have a choice in how that goes. So, with that being said, I do believe in living a sexually moral life, and I believe that the pursuit of abstinence and celibacy outside of marriage, and I'll unpack that one in a second, is how to live a sexually moral life. I'm not gonna get into heterosexuality, homosexuality. That's not what this conversation is about. But let's just at least agree that sexual morality has to be an agreement between two parties. It's an intimacy shared in the core of a human being. My sexual experience and my sexual identity, my sexual essence is not something that I should share with a bunch of people. Period. Whether I identify as a male or a female, as a homosexual or a heterosexual, or whatever other combinations of that there is. The core of who I am, the most central, sensual, defining part of me should be saved for the very best, the very most purposeful, the very most intentional relationship that I can find. So, therefore, I don't believe that promiscuity will ever lead to promise, to hope, to health. I know because I've lived my life promiscuously before. I've lived my life promiscuously in different stages, and it never leads anywhere good. It never leads to anything healthy. It never leads to a productive relationship. It is absolutely detestable behavior that promises instant gratification and long-term suffering. If you're a parent raising a young woman right now and you're barking at her about purity, understand that if something happens to her where her purity is taken from her, and let's just go ahead and acknowledge that that's real, and it's a big percentage of women who are violated. We can have a different conversation about the male sexual role here, but this is to the women. If you're raising a young woman right now and you're beating her over the head with this idea of purity, you are setting her up for potential tragedy and heartache. Don't do that. Teach her about the beauty and the treasure of who she is as a human being, as a sentient being, as a mind, as a heart, as a soul, as a spirit. Teach her her value And that there are very few people, mommy and daddy, brother and sister, like even your most intimate nuclear family relationships when you're growing up don't have access to your sexuality. Teaching a young woman how precious that is a far better approach than teaching her this concept that you're pure until you have sex, and then as soon as you have sex, you're not pure anymore. Well, then what do you become? Too dirty for Jesus? And once you're too dirty, like, can you ever get clean again? Like, it's a pretty doomsday approach. Women have to live in their bodies for the rest of their life. And the more sexual partners you have, the more it will degrade this idea that purity is value and impurity is devalue. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're a young woman who's thinking about your sexuality and you're toying with the ideas of experimenting and feeling sensuality and expressing yourself as a woman, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing sinful about that. There's a time and a place, and those moments should be shared with the best, with the brightest, with the most amazing. I'm going to propose a heterosexual conversation here because I think there's a great argument for that, but with the most amazing man that you meet. And you're not going to know that when you first meet him. If you want to jump his bones within the first couple of weeks that you meet him, that's probably not who you should be hanging out with. These are deep connections that are spiritual and intellectual and emotional and go much further than the bits and pieces that are hanging out in your underwear. Pause on sex if you're young. If you still are a virgin, pause every time. Pausing will never hurt. Pausing will always give you a little more insight. If you want to have sex with your boyfriend that you've been with for 2 years and you think now's the time, I don't know, give it another 2 months. You fought really hard, and there is something that happens in a woman that changes. The purity argument isn't false, but it's an inconquerable idea for a lot of women that if we sell that only purity and only being a virgin on your wedding night is the only way for you to be a righteous, God-fearing woman, we've just now eliminated probably over half of the population. Don't do that, right? But respecting yourself as a powerful, beautiful, intentional, purposeful, I was created for such a time as this woman, and there is something about me that not just one man, but every man probably wants to see the value in that and to protect it, to guard it, and to offer that only to, I'm even going to step out a little bit further, but Pop is best for you. That's the conversation that we want to have, right? If you're an older woman and you have dabbled in promiscuity, or you've been the victim of some kind of sexual predator, or you don't know how to make sense of your own sexuality, your own essence, your own sensuality, I'm going to again repeat, it is okay to want to be sexy, to express yourself sexually, to enjoy your sexuality. There's nothing wrong with that. We're created purposefully and wonderfully, and women are fantastically sensual and sexual beings. But there's a time and a place. There's an appropriateness, and I still go back to the best way, the most appropriate way to express your sexual energy is in the confines of a beautifully, mutually reciprocal and agreed upon, committed, heterosexual connection with the very best. I hope that helps. Purity will get me fired up faster than almost anything because I feel like something got taken from me. What happened to me when I was 4 was not a full-blown penetrative experience. That's horrible, but just to flesh that out. So that did not rob me of my purity. It sexualized me far too young. It made me very aware of things that I should have never been aware of. It exposed me literally to things that I should have not even had an idea of until I was much older. But when I was actually taken by a man against my sexual will, I did not give him permission. I did not want that to happen. But I very foolishly and naively allowed myself to be in a physical and figurative position that gave him easy access. Caveat, men, don't do that. If she trusts you, be trustworthy. Going back to the women, but when that was taken from me, let me just tell you, if I could go back in a time machine and say, Amy Thrasher, you are just as beautiful as you were yesterday. You are just as beautiful as you were 2 hours ago. You are just as important to the creator of the universe plus as you were 30 minutes before it happened. You are no different. Your essence, your spirit, your heart, your mind, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are as pure as you want to be in your heart. I would definitely do that. Because the idea that I had in my mind was, if I had sex, I needed to marry that guy, and I need to stay married to that guy forever because he had my purity, and that, and the simplification and the removal of all of the other important pieces of me that were attached to my virginity, to simplify it down to one thing and say, well, it's gone, that probably led to promiscuity. It's like, what's the point? If it's gone and someone who I'm not with anymore, who obviously didn't love and respect me, got the one thing that's so fantastic about me, why even try? Why bother? It didn't help. Now, anyone who's read the book Too Dirty for Jesus understands that one thing started and it probably goes back to 4 years old, and we can flesh that out at a different time. I have a lot to say about anti-pedophilia, but I'll hold back right now. But at the end of the day, what that really boils down to is your sexuality is present. It's not past and it's not future. You are right here in your moment, and you get to decide at any given time to take that back. Don't ever give that power to anyone and who's not for you, who doesn't want the best for you, who isn't careful with you. And the second that you realize that somebody has that from you and that they're not being a good steward of your beauty and your spirit, your soul, you take that power back. I've probably changed courses a couple of times in this conversation, but purity is a stance of heart. It's not a stance of body. Be careful who you lay down with. Pause and pause again. Save that part of you, that the deepest, darkest, most intimate, nakedest, sexiest parts of you for the very best. And your life will be a lot better. And if you don't have all those things, just don't have sex. I mean,